Hello, Keith Rucker here at VintageMachinery.org. Guys, today we're back to working on this Golden's number 2 cane mill. I've got the rollers over here. We previously welded these up where we had some pitting and stuff in the shafts, and today what I want to do is get those turned back down smooth, hopefully have good weld penetration all the way down through there, and we end up with some nice smooth journals that we can then go pour Babbitt bearings on. Now I've already come over here and I just used the jib crane to set this over into the lathe. Put it in the 4-jaw chuck. I indicated off of this end. We already had a center in the other end that we're just going back to the original center. I will note that there is a little bit of run out in this drum, but we're going off of that original center. It is kind of what it is. I run into that periodically with these mills. They've just been so used and abused over time that they just get a little bit out of wonkers. But the good news is that for a cane mill, it's not out that much, and all we're doing is crushing cane. It's not like this is got to be running at, a thousandths run out on it. If it's got 100 thousandths run out in it, it's fine. It's just crushing cane, so I think we'll be fine. Let's get in here and see if we can start cleaning these welds up. Sometimes this can be a little bit challenging depending on how hard that weld is, but we'll get in here and give it a shot and see if we can get them cleaned up. Should be able to get it done on this big lathe. All right, we have got everything in here. And I want to come in here and basically just look, see, I need to reverse my carriage direction. That's feeding right now. So what I'm going to do is, I'm just going to come in here, kind of touch off on that high spot. And we just kind of got to get started on this. You end up with a little bit of beating or whatever going on at first until it kind of finds gets some area cleaned up on it. I'm going to try not to take too big of a cut until we get more of a uninterrupted cut. That's a lot better. About a 50,000th step to cut here and see how it does. I'm not too worried about it being a rough finish right now. I just want to get this kind of cleaned up where we can start cutting across there a little bit better. I've got a cutter with a pretty big radius in it. I might be better off to have a little bit sharper radius. But I want to try to use this tool. All right, come back out. We'll do about another 50 thousandths and let it cut all the way across again. Like I said, it's pounding on it right now just because it's an interrupted cut. Once we kind of get an uninterrupted cut across there, it should do a lot better. All right, let's try this one. I got a cutter that's kind of angled on the back there. This gives me a little more clearance. Also got it turned in a little bit more to kind of get up in the bottom down here. In fact, I'm going to kind of come in here and clean that up a little bit if I can. Catching you up here where we're at. I've been just rough turning this on down, and I'm still not quite below all my welds, and I got about 100 thousandths to go. In fact, I'm sitting here debating whether I kind of weld these little pots up a little bit before we get there, just because I don't think I'm going to have enough to quite clean up some of those. We're real close, but still a little rough. It's been tough on my inserts, but if I put a fresh insert in here, I think I'll get a pretty good finish on this. So anyway, I think I'm just going to get the welder out and kind of weld up some of these deeper pits in here. I think that one right there will turn out. Like I said, we still got about 100 thousandths to go forward to our final dimension. But all in all, I think we're getting there. Well, guys, I have gotten down to the finish line here on this. We've got this turned to size, which is, 2 7/16 inch diameter. And I ended up with a nice finish. I'm real happy. I mean, there's a few little dimples in there, but nothing that's going to cause us problem on a Babbitt bearing. I did have to, like I say, go back and kind of weld up a few little spots. The trick on this was when, like I said, when I was making rough cuts, it was making really rough cuts because it was an interrupted cut. Once we kind of got it all down to where it was making a uniform cut, I was able to make much smoother cuts and really kind of fine tune it. There toward the end, I basically sped my lathe up to about 1,000 RPMs, and I was taking about a 10 thousandths or less pass to kind of just clean it up to get a little bit of chatter out of it. There was a little bit of vibration in it, which you often run into, and a lot of times you can get around that by going higher speeds or playing with your speeds and feeds until you find one where the harmonics just work out right. Like I said, I kept speeding up. I started out, I think I was running about 350 RPMs when I was roughing. And then I just kind of kept taking it up a notch at a time until I ended up at 1,000 RPMs on that last pass, which that last pass was only about 2 thousandths. And anyway, it came out pretty good. Like I said, I'm happy with this one. We're on size. So we're going to flip this around and try to get the other side done. And I'm going to put 2 straps on this. We'll just, again, kind of put a lark's head in this around these. That way we can get them on and off without having to slide them off the ends. So we'll put that one on this side. Do the same thing on the other. Slack out of it. And release the center down here on this end. We're supporting it now from the strap. And we have this in a big 4-jaw chuck. I'm just going to loosen up 2 of my jaws. And that should slide out. All right. Now, I think what I'm going to do is actually flip this around and grip it on the outside of the drum. And just so I don't have to grip on that journal that I just got all polished out and everything. I don't want to mar it up or anything. So I think that's what we're going to do. So give me a minute to get that set up. I'm going to have to pull my jaws out and we'll get this set up in here. Get it indicated in with a dial indicator. I can't remember if there's a center in that end or not. We'll take a look. I may have to put a center in it if so, and we'll go from there. So I've got my drum over here mounted up in the lathe. We got it in the 4-jaw chuck, and I basically got this thing tuned in. You know, it's got 20 thousandths run out in it. It's old casting. It's not going to be perfect. It's as close as I can get it. And the next step I need to do is I need to put a center in down here so that I can turn this and support it. And I'll zoom you in here. There was an old center in there that someone had plugged up, and we're going to need to re-drill it. So let me kind of show you that. So if you look, that's where a center was. And I don't know, it looks like they plugged it up somehow or another. Don't know how, don't know why. It was all done before I got it. It's just kind of what I'm stuck with. So I'm going to try to drill a new center in there. And hopefully this will be rigid enough to at least get that hole started. If I can just get it started, I'll just be pushing in on it and it should be fine. So let's see if we can do this. So note, there is some run out in the shaft, but the drum is running pretty good. And I'm more interested in the drum. We're going to cut that journal to run true with everything. So, or to run true with the shaft. So I'm just going to kind of, that's good, that's soft metal. I was worried that that might have been hard metal. It's almost too soft. I'm wondering if that's Babbitt. All right, I'm going to get a bigger center and put in there and see if I can get into some of that base metal, because I'm pretty sure that's just Babbitt that someone had poured in there. All right, I have gone way up on size of my center here. And again, my goal is I want to get into the actual steel. So, and I may even go bigger than this if I have to. Let's get that one in there first and just kind of look at what we got. Yeah, I'm going to go up another size. All right, I've gone up to a number 7 center drill, which is way overkill for this shaft, but it's going to allow me to hopefully get it a good center running on metal and get all that Babbitt out of there. So I'm just going to bring this in a little bit until we just start cutting good. And we're cutting steel rather than Babbitt. We are cutting. All right, I think we got a good center there now. Yeah, I can see where we're down. I can see where there's still some Babbitt up in there, but it's down below. We're into the steel out here on the end, so I think we're good. All right, let me get a center in here now, and we will be ready to start turning. All right, we are spinning again. We got a little run out in the shaft, but that's where that shaft is bent. But what's important is that we got minimal run out in the drum itself. That's the important part. And that's kind of how I set the other one up. There was a little bit of run out in it on the other side as well, but not bad. All right, I can tell that's my high spot, so I'm just going to kind of cut across that. Progress here, guys. I did have to weld up a couple little places in there, and like we did before, but we're getting down close to the final measurement now. Because this shaft was bent and we're kind of straightening it out, now we're going to have plenty of metal down here on the bearing surface, but above the bearing surface is hitting on one side. It's fine. I'm just going ahead and cleaning up that one side so that the shaft doesn't have as much run out in it. It will work just fine. There's just a mule walking around in a circle, a little bracket that fits in a tapered plug up on the top. So changing the diameter is not going to matter. It's really fitting on a square taper. But we're getting down, yeah, we're probably less than 20 thousandths now. I'm taking real light passes and just kind of sneaking up on that last number. And so far, it looks good. So we're getting close. And just like that, we got this one done. Again, happy with that journal surface. That'll work just fine for our Babbitt bearings. So now we can get this one out, and I got the 2 smaller rollers that I need to get turned. So we'll get started on those here up next. I've got the small roller here that we are now bringing over and getting put into the lathe. Make some adjustments here. This already has a pretty decent center in the end. I just cleaned it out with a center drill just by hand. It had a little bit of gunk in it. I think what I'm going to do is go ahead and bring the center in and let that kind of help get this part lined up like it needs to be. Loosen the tailstock up. Bring it in closer. Get this strap out of here. So I've got a dial indicator on here now, and I'm just trying to get this cylinder running more or less true. So let's see, this is kind of the high spot. I need to take that back. Let me go to the low spot. Right there, I'm going to zero out my indicator. I'm going to come back around here. So I got about 60 thousandths roughly. It needs to go that way, so I'm going to come back here behind the lathe. I'm going to loosen up this jaw here and come back around to the other side. And 60 thousandths out, we need to do half of that, so go take it to 30 thou. And that should have it kind of evened out, and that's 30 thousandths right there. So now we'll do it again, and I'm probably going to have to work on the other jaw. It's only less than 10 thou out. So right now it's far to me. I'm going to go 180 to that. I'll zero out my digital, or my DRO, my indicator again. Bring it back around over here. So we got about 5 thou. I just need to take it that way, half of that. I might be able to squeeze that out without loosening up the other side. No, I'm going to have to loosen it up just a little bit. Doesn't take much here. Only need about 2.5 thou. And that's already more or less there. So now I'm spinning it around, and there's still just a little bit of run out. Find the high spot here, right there. You go 180 to that. Yeah, that's not much. Only about 2 thou. Keep in mind this roller is not perfectly round, so we're just going to have to do the best we can. That took about half of that. Yeah. I'm just going around. I've got my zero. All 4 of the jaws are pretty much landing right on 0, which means that it's out in the drum itself. But we're within, 3 thousandths run out. Good enough. So I'm not going to mess with this anymore. Let me go ahead and we'll get started turning down here. All right, guys. So we got this one running pretty good. I'm real happy with how that one turned out. If I can kind of clean that little gap weld up off the end. I'm going to hit that live center. spots down here on the end. For whatever reason, these small rollers tend to wear to a taper. When they're new, they're straight. They're not a taper, but they kind of wear to a taper. So even welded up, they're kind of tapered out. I'm just going to take about a 50 thousandths cut here. Start cleaning it up. So we've got this turned down. I'm probably about 100 thousandths from my final diameter, but I got a couple places in here where it's not quite cleaning up. And again, remember this kind of tapered out down here at the bottom. So as we get down here, about halfway down, it's perfectly good. So anyway, I'm gonna crank up the welder. We're gonna put a little bit more material in some of those little spots, let it cool down a little bit, and we'll finish turning this out. Just kind of catching you up here, I took this out and welded that up, and yeah, I still got a little spot right there. I'm kind of down to where probably need to weld that up again and turn it back down. I got about 50 thousandths on the diameter still to come off, so we're not quite there yet. I just got it kind of cleaned up after welding it. And most of that I think will clean up just fine, but there is one little spot right there. I probably need to put a little more weld on and turn it back down, but we're getting there, slowly but surely. Let me put a little bit more weld right there and turn it back down again, and we'll hopefully get this thing finished out here pretty quick. Well, I started turning it before anyway, you can kind of see here, I just TIG welded those little areas up, and we are now coming back and turning them back down. So just a process here. Let me see if we can get this to clean up this time. All right, we are getting down to size here. Let's see where we're at. So I'm right at 2.200. I'm going to 2.1875. So I've got about 12.5 thou to take off of there. I'm just going to dial that right into my readout or my dial here. That's 10. We'll just do 12 thou. This should be the final pass. That should do it. So we got just a couple little marks in there, but nothing of any significance. And we're right where we need to be. I'm going to put chamfer that bottom edge, and we'll have this one done. Put a little chamfer on there. Just for good measure, I'm going to hit it with a little bit of emery cloth. Calling that good. Like I said, there's a couple little dimples down there in the bottom, but nothing's going to cause any problems at all. It's all below the surface. So we're going to now take this one out. I'm going to get the other one done as well on the bottom, and then we'll take these over, and we've got to weld the top one bearing up. We'll flip this over and turn the other side. So I'm going to do the other roller bottom off camera, and then we'll weld up the tops and get those turned down. All right, we got one of our rollers in here that we just welded up this end on, and we're getting ready to start turning it out. Got it running real nice and true. Real happy with that. The center was already in the end, so we didn't have to worry about that. And it looks like it's running true to everything. So let's get a cutter in here and start cleaning that up. Just doing about 50 thousandths per pass. Again, on these interrupted cuts, I don't like to get too carried away. So far, it seems to be cutting pretty good on this. So hopefully this didn't get too hard, and machine on out. We're just going to continue on here again until we kind of get it down to size, and we'll see whether we need to go in there and weld anything up like we have on the other ones. Probably will. There's usually a spot or two that just doesn't quite get enough weld in it, but it's just part of the process. All right, guys, we'll bring you back here in a little bit once we get this turned down a little bit and see how this one goes. All right, I think we have our journals all turned on these 3 rollers. Everything's been welded up, turned back down, smooth enough for Babbitt bearings. We're good to go. Up next on this, we'll be pouring the Babbitt bearings for these journals. And shortly after that, we can probably start looking at putting these mills together. Like I said, I still got to get some hardware ordered for them. And there's a little bit of hardware I got to make for them as well, but we're making good progress on these. These took a while. You having to weld them up, let them cool down, turn them, go back, touch up your welding, turn them again, cooling down in between. It's just it's a long, drawn out process, but we got it knocked out, and we do these all the time. You just have to get it done. Now, like I mentioned before, I've got 2 of these mills to do, and I've already got the small rollers turned on the other one. The big roller I've got welded up. It needs to be turned down yet. I'm probably going to go ahead and get that done. I'll do it off camera, but just go ahead and get it knocked on out so that we can move forward on this project. But for today and for this video, that's going to be a wrap. Fun little project using the big 28-inch Monarch lathe. Guys, the more I use this lathe, the more I like it. This is a nice little machine. When I bought this lathe, right after I built my shop, the gentleman who had owned it before me had passed away. I never got a chance to meet him, but I knew a good friend of his who I actually worked with when I got this. And he told me that his friend always bragged about how accurate this machine was. Well, the more I use it, the more I tend to agree. It is a pretty darn accurate lathe, and I've been real happy with how it's been working so far. I do eventually want to kind of rework the tool post over here. This lathe was originally equipped with this tracing attachment, which we're not using. I want to get a bigger compound that would be more appropriate for this lathe, kind of drop it down a little bit. I'm probably going to have to put a riser block in here to kind of raise it up. I can make one once I find a bigger compound, but I'm looking for a big compound to go on a big lathe, bigger than the one that's on here. And if I can ever get that done, I think we can really improve this lathe a lot. You guys saw early in the video when I was doing the rough cutting, interrupted cut, insert starts getting dull. You can see a lot of movement in this. Now, when it's cutting good, you don't see it at all. It's more rigid than it looks, but when you get into a really rough situation, boom, there's a lot of flexing and going on in this machine that I think we can improve upon by putting a compound that's more appropriate for the size of this machine. When they put this tracing attachment in here and rose it up, they had to put a smaller compound in here to kind of compensate for that. So that's something I'm on the lookout for. But once again, I digress. Guys, like I said before, that's going to be a wrap on this video. As always, thanks for watching. Please subscribe if you haven't already. Those thumbs up and comments are always greatly appreciated. Hit that bell icon up there to get notifications when new videos are posted. And a big, huge thank you to those who support the site financially through Patreon, PayPal, etc. Like I always say, it enables me to take the time to shoot these videos and do all the editing and everything else that goes along behind the scenes to make a YouTube channel work besides working in the shop. So it really does enable me to do that. And thank you guys that helped me out in that area. With that, guys, we're going to get out of here. We'll catch you on the next video. As always, thanks for watching.